Obviously, deans and faculty are crucial to CBE buy-in, and that really is the importance of this panel topic. I think we all know the importance of broad-based co-ownership of efforts in this regard. Today, we have a number of institutions that have led the way in CBE in dealing with the challenges and opportunities related to issues of faculty buy-in and faculty empowerment. And we really have an opportunity today to hear what three experts in the field have to say about that. And I'm pleased to introduce you to Iris Palmer. Iris is a senior policy analyst who focuses on post-secondary issues at the National Governance Association for Best Practices. Iris is focused on the state level, in particular, how to support and get faculty on board for innovation like CBE. We have James Kennedy, who is currently teaching strategic management and ethical leadership at the University of Maryland, University College. He also serves on the chair of academics and governance for the Faculty Advisory Council. And his interests include developing curriculum and building faculty empowerment and buy-in for the development of competency-based programs. And we have Ray Rice, Provost and Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs at the University of Maine at Presque Isle. Ray has been involved with asynchronous and blended modalities, has been an advocate for open higher education access his entire career, and as Provost, he directs the academic focus of proficiency-based education as a vital component in preparing the graduates of Presque Isle for future careers and creating a better world for future generations. So we're pleased to have you here, and I'm pleased to work with you. My goal as a moderator here will be to try to move the conversation forward in an even-paced, interactive way in a discussion among the panelists and ultimately you. To optimize our Q&A time, what I'd like to ask the audience to do is write down any questions you might have as the panelists speak, and then we'll collect those questions. Just raise your hand, we'll collect those questions, and I'll pose those questions during the Q&A. So, format of the session is going to be a conversation with myself and hopefully between our panelists too. So I'll be posing a number of questions. We've got 5 questions that our panel will tackle as we move along. Just for the panel to have a sense of you as the audience, how many faculty from universities are here? Okay. And how many administrators? How many don't know who you are? One, two, three. You know, we realize we're bumping up against lunch. So I know blood sugar is going to get low at around 12:15, and that's when we're going to start to begin to think about Q&A. And we will break at 10 minutes of 1. So again, we welcome you to this session, and I hope this will be informative and useful for you as you go back to your institutions. Let me start with a question posed to Iris. Iris, what institutional support structures are crucial to building faculty empowerment and implementation of CBE in your experience?
Yeah. So, let me just make sure I'm talking into this. So there are specific barriers, I think, that prevent faculty from really engaging in innovation, and part of that actually depends on the faculty role. Are they adjunct? Are they full-time, non-tenure track? Are they tenure track? So there's different barriers for different faculty, and some of those are institutional evaluation systems, for instance. So when you're experimenting, you tend to get lower feedback from students, and that can actually really affect tenure, and it can actually, well, maybe not tenure as much as your contract getting re-upped. There's also a lack of support and professional development for faculty to know how to start to implement different kinds of teaching and learning. And there's also a lack of time and money to provide additional support around technology and around professional development. And obviously for the state role, which is where I'm focused, there's not a lot states can do necessarily, because this is really an institutional issue. But what states can do, and what we've seen some states begin to look at, is how to create a more common and supportive environment for institutions to start to support their faculty, and especially the ones that are out there in the front that are really interested in innovating around these sorts of student success and different methods and modalities for student learning. So a couple things states can do, and like I said, this is a really new area for most states who kind of see faculty engagement as a difficult thing to do and really in the wheelhouse of institutions, is really start to provide specific funding streams that really support professional development around teaching and learning. So for instance, and Ray can obviously add to this, Maine is, Presque Isle is actually working with their K-12 systems to actually provide professional development to both teachers and faculty around competency-based education. States can support that a lot more. They can actually start to invest to buy faculty time around innovation. So to allow for more experimentation, to buy some of the course load, some of the research load off of faculty plates. They can support tech infrastructure. So if you look at like the University of Central Florida, they have an entire infrastructure that helps faculty put their courses online in a way that actually makes sense. And a lot of institutions have this, but to start to focus that infrastructure and think about how that can start going towards more of a competency-based approach. And those all cost money, right? Which is hard for states to come up with in this time of limited resources. But there's other things that they can do. So we heard a lot about CBEN this morning, which is sort of a competency-based learning community that's been funded by foundations. But I think there's a lot to be said for statewide learning communities around this, as different institutions start to experiment with programs and as faculty are coming together and thinking about how this works, starting to facilitate that statewide and having that, that cross-pollination could be really helpful, and we were starting to see some of that happen. And I mentioned evaluation as a barrier for these experimentation for faculty and innovation for faculty. I think states can encourage institutions to think about evaluation in a different way and maybe start to put in different kinds of evaluation structures for faculty that are trying to experiment with these sorts of programs and modalities. This is an institutional one, but I think states can facilitate a survey of faculty about additional barriers and issues that they're facing as they try to experiment with competency-based education. This would mostly be at an institutional level, but I think you could raise it up and actually look across systems to look at what some of the barriers are, and then states can actually address what is very specific to their state or their system, or a particular program maybe that's across several institutions. So those are some ways I think states can support setting out a really friendly environment for faculty and a friendly environment hopefully for innovation, and start to get some of those early adopters on board and give them incentives to continue their work, and what I think is really good work.
Thank you, Iris. Ray, Iris mentioned the state of Maine. Does the state of Maine provide any impetus for CBE?
It provides it in the sense that the Board of Trustees, because we're part of a 7-institution system in the UMaine system, wholeheartedly embraced our movement towards proficiency education. But in terms of financial support, you know, that was the extent, right? They embraced our strategic plan and our move towards it. But we had to look outwards for that kind of support, and the Davis Foundation gave us $200,000 last year, which we put about 90% of that into basically professional development for faculty. And we provided, we call them innovative fellows. At this point, 70% of our faculty have been identified as innovative fellows. They received stipends, they received workshops, we worked with Great Schools Partnership, one-on-one work on proficiency education. We brought up experts about what was happening in the high schools in the state of Maine, so we would have a stronger understanding of what students would increasingly expect as they were moving into a higher education situation, because of course in the state of Maine, it's mandated by 2018, all high schools use a proficiency-based education system in the schools. So, and Aroostook County is really just starting to ramp up to that in the last couple of years. So also, as Ira said, it's really important to build a network with K through 12, and so we're working on that in Aroostook County to provide resources for both K through 12 faculty as well as college faculty in those developments. We work directly with an office located on our campus that looks for both state funds as well as for federal fundings for those sorts of programs. Also, and as Iris mentioned, it really, you have to, I think, it's much more important to take a carrot rather than a stick approach to development of something like this. But our institution was also kind of uniquely, I think, situated for that because, I mean, I think of it as Cotter's change management model. We kind of fell into it perfectly. You know, he talks about you have to create the climate. And a combination of student demographics within our state, particularly within Aroostook County, which has, you know, seen a shrinking population for several decades now, and a bunch of external forces combined with the fact that a lot of the students we would be that we service at our institution would be going through a proficiency education, and we wanted to ensure that they would have a seamless transition to a college environment as well. So that led faculty to be, from my perspective at least, I've taught at UMPI for 17 years. That's both my strength and I think weakness as a provost there, is that's been my one job in higher education after graduating from the University of Connecticut. So that the faculty were I think ripe to embrace what proficiency education could do and what it could promise, as long as they were part of the process. And I think by getting that $200,000 grant from the Davis Foundation really helped to ensure that faculty felt they were a part of the in an ongoing, and the prime movers, in fact. It's not really, even though the president really identified proficiency education as the vision for the institution, it's been my